Hello, this presentation is entitled, Why Do Many Churches Fade Out and How Can They Be Restored? Before we start, let me say up front, all I can offer are my insights based on my many years in various churches. Many churches I have visited are large buildings. When I walk in, there's hardly anyone there. They're practically empty. At one time, these were thriving places where people were baptized, grew up, attended Sunday school and youth groups, got married, attended socials and festivities, and eventually had their funerals. Some of these churches were the centers of their communities. Now, there are no Sunday schools or Bible classes in many of them. Very rarely, if ever, any baptisms or marriages, and only sporadic community activities. What happened? Before we go there, we need to look at why they were founded in the first place. Every church was founded because there was a perceived need in the community that was not being met. Let me give an example. Let's look at the rise of the suburban churches. After the Korean War, with veteran benefits and people looking to move to other areas they discovered as a result of military service, they settled in new suburbs. Also, people left the downtowns. They no longer had any connections with the downtown areas and the churches of their parents. Churches were established to fill the need for a presence in the new local communities. Many of these churches are now empty. Many of these churches are not in declining economic areas where people are leaving or gentrified areas where the population is dying out. Quite the opposite. Just based on my experiences, many are in areas of large population growth, some of it quite affluent, but with changing demographics, some of younger single people, some with more families, and some with immigrant populations. So, what can be done to try to restore these churches back? Before we go there, let me say that restoration is not going back to the way things were. Perhaps some churches in their restoration may remain small, and it is more effective for them as they can be better focused on fewer ministries, not scattered out, serve niche needs, and concentrate on spiritual growth, fellowship, and wholeness. I know of a megachurch that quickly declined to a storefront church, but they recognized why it happened and built back to a smaller church. It is now spiritually healthier. Downsizing to a smaller church does not necessarily equate with decline, but can simply be a refocus of purpose, mission, and priorities. But first, let's get back to some very basics that are applicable to any church. Churches must be welcoming to newcomers and new members. Once I visited a church, and it was a big building. I walked in before the service, and there was no one in there except a few standing around the back. No one greeted me when I entered. I sat down. A woman walked in and loudly said, "You're in my seat." I looked around. There was certainly no shortage of seats, and I did not see anything to indicate she had been sitting there. I moved. However, she did not stop there. She then went to the few people in the back, loudly proclaiming, "That man over there was sitting in my seat." Well, I decided I was not going to sit in any seat and left. Then another church used to have a monthly after church luncheon at different restaurants. I was a new member and thought I would get there early to meet people as they came in. There was a long table and no one at it. I sat down. A woman entered the restaurant, came to me and said, "That's my seat. You will have to move." Again, I did not see anything to indicate she had been there or there were any seat assignments. I moved. But then another lady entered and the same thing happened. Another time, I visited a church. On approaching it, the grounds were full of weeds, the exterior was crumbling. Other than my family, there was one other person in the service. The officiant entered, acknowledged no one, all four of us there, carried out the service, and departed, never to be seen again. That church used to be a central part of the community's life. The community had changed and is now in an area of economic resurgence and with a very affluent population growth in a downtown area. I don't need to say any more about that. I was a new member in the church, just been baptized. After the baptism and service, I stood around the foyer to greet anyone who wanted to say congratulations or welcome or just say hi. Not one person said anything. All went past on their way out as if I did not even exist. This is not about me, but it makes me wonder how many others had this experience. My point is, can churches expect to keep new members with these types of behaviors? Which leads me into the next factor. Churches must maintain their grounds, not fancy landscaping, but just simple things. There was a church on a busy road near where I was temporarily living. In fact, I used to be a member there 40 years before and had returned to the town for a short time. It was February, and the church still had the Christmas service times displayed on the sign by the roadside. Quite noticeable from the road was a playground with high weeds and broken and neglected play equipment. Either fix it, clean it up, or remove it. Obviously, children were not using it or even could use it. I visited for the first time in about 40 years. There were 16 people in its only service. There used to be two, and no children around. The pews used to be filled to capacity. This was definitely not an economically declining area either. Lots of families were moving in. It seems it would be difficult to attract new members when they see this. It shows lack of pride or it projects carelessness. How can people take it seriously? The previous church's grounds I mentioned was a red flag, and look at it. Churches need to examine their missions. Perhaps the ones they had 20 years ago were effective in work, but needs in the community change. The church's missions did not. Churches need to look and assess what are the needs in the community they can work to fulfill. Let's look at a couple of possible examples. What is it that people are struggling with these days? Inflation, high interest rates, high medical costs, high child care costs, and no meaningful pay raises at work to keep up. Ministries can be developed to help with these issues, but churches must be ecumenical and combine resources, as some issues may be too much for one church to tackle. Or there might be nearby churches offering the same ministry at the same time, and effectiveness cannot be maximized. Perhaps they can offer the same ministries, but on a staggered and coordinated delivery approach. People are stressed. Perhaps a mental health ministry. It would not be a substitute for mental health counseling, but a place where people can learn from others, find support, and perhaps find others to communicate with during the week. As mentioned, every church was found to fulfill a need in the community that did not exist. However, the needs upon which they were founded were not social service ones, but to establish a presence to worship the Lord. These types of service needs can be missions of the church, but not the sole reasons for their existence. If they do become that, then the church is nothing but another social service agency out there. Every church was founded as there was not a church of that type in that location. There was a need to establish an opportunity for people to worship there and for Christ to be glorified. So, what is it that people are looking for these days? Stability in their lives. The church can provide that. It is a stable and timeless haven from the world and provides a way both to disconnect from it, but also cope, live, and thrive in it. They can be part of something greater. They are looking for lasting substance. Many are looking to be made whole, body, mind, and spirit. Though ancient, it seems like a contemporary concept, and many people seek it out in other places and cannot find the complete package. But do churches provide this? Some, yes, and very well, and others, no. Churches need to examine how their messages are delivered. My father used to be president of two different congregations. He once remarked about those. Who wants to get up on Sunday morning, get everybody fed and dressed, then go and sing morbid, depressing hymns that were written during the times of the bubonic plague? Can't the church be more fun loving? He was not referring to entertainment or dancing in the aisles, but being more joyful as Christ wants us to take joy in Him. Does the order of or style of worship need to be changed? It can be without compromising the Word. Unfortunately, in the quest for more members, there is a temptation to compromise it. This is a real and ongoing danger in the church. Regardless, the church still needs structure. Again, people seek stability, but does it need to be rigid to the point of being cold? Opportunities must be created to reach people in their busy lives. The church needs to keep itself in front of them all week and create opportunities for growth and participation. One Sunday morning service and nothing else is not going to cut it these days. Many people can't attend church on Sunday mornings. They may need to work. They don't need lectures or guilt trips by pastors and members about their church attendance priorities. Just speaking from personal experience, some pastors don't know or listen to what is going on in people's lives and become judgmental. They should listen, question, and respond with options or ways to assist. This is what I propose on how to keep their church in front of members and create participation, growth opportunities. This is with the understanding that it is within resources available. However, all of the ideas expressed in this presentation are low cost or no cost. We must remember that pastors are under enormous time pressures too. It's a 24/7 job, whether one is bivocational or full-time. Ask any bivocational minister if their ministry is really only part-time. They need help. They can't and should not have to do it all. However, if opportunities are created for members to participate and assist, then some members may be glad to. Number one, keep social media active. Members like to hear communications during the week. They should not be so frequent as to get annoying, but maybe Facebook postings once or twice a week. Number two, on social media, have a regular feature. I know of one small church where the pastor for years has had a daily 5 or 6 minute Facebook devotional posted around 6 a.m. of practical biblical insights of how to handle the issues that come before us in our lives. It does not have to be daily, but can be weekly. Another church has one on Tuesdays, and it's given by a church member. The Sunday morning service should be live streamed and archived for future viewing. The contrary view is that people will look at it and not physically attend. I don't think so. Some members may not be able to physically attend that particular Sunday, and the message reaches beyond the church members. It can create new missions. Because of my hectic schedule, I remotely attend a late Tuesday afternoon Bible class that is 2,000 miles away, and I can work the time zone difference for the time that works for me. Most of the members are in different states. We are a cohesive group sharing Christian fellowship. Number four, social media has to be constantly updated. Sometimes I find a church I might like to attend, look at their website or Facebook page to see has not been updated in 2 or 3 years. Is the church even still in operation? It is certainly not motivating to go and actually attend there. Number five, worship activities during the week that are accessible. What about a 6 a.m. Bible study group or 6 a.m. brief service. It only has to be once a week. I see these during the week in some churches, but they are only at 9 or 10 a.m. Working people cannot attend. Number 6, opportunities for church participation in leadership have to be when people can attend. Once I was asked to be on a church finance committee. They really wanted me on it. Problem was, they met at 10 a.m. on Thursdays. We'll have to work and cannot break away to attend. I asked if we could meet at 5:30. No. Did they want to do it later in the evening? No. Did they want to do it before or after church on Sunday? No. It had to be at 10 a.m. on Thursdays. Why? Well, that's the time it is. The same church had all, and I mean all of its activities during the week between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Again, it's not me or my schedule, but millions of others out there have the same schedule, even worse. Are they being effectively excluded from church participation and growth? Worship services can also be on Saturday evenings, Wednesday evenings, etc. These do not always have to be led by a pastor, but can be led by trained members. Then finally, there might be the situation where it is best to merge with another church. I have seen churches that have a few members at the end of their lives in a very large building and grounds that must have high maintenance costs. They are not financially sustainable. They haven't had any new members in a very long time. It might be best to merge with another church. The new church can benefit from their experiences, and they have an infrastructure to support what they can bring, as well as fellowship, spiritual, and physical support. Well, we have looked at the issue with specific examples and possible solutions. These are simply ideas among very many other workable options out there. Again, I don't have the answer except one. Whatever churches do, they must be Christ-centered. Churches can find guidance and examples by examining the 7 churches in Revelation chapters 2 and 3. What were they doing well? What did they need to improve on? The guidance is timeless and is applicable today as then. These should be examined with reference to one's own church and not a comparison with others in the community to justify themselves. Look in the mirror. Churches that have stagnated or are failing can usually be restored. It will be different, but a new way to effectively bring glory to Christ and effectively do his work. Thanks for joining.